There are places that echo with the weight of history, where the past is so palpable that you can feel it in the very air you breathe. One such place is Eastern State Penitentiary, a former prison located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that has become infamous not only for its grim history, but for the terrifying apparitions that are said to haunt its abandoned halls. For more than a century, Eastern State was a place of unimaginable suffering, a prison that aimed to reform its inmates through isolation, silence, and brutal punishment. But for those who dared to enter its crumbling walls in the years after its closure, it became a place where something much darker lingered. A place where restless spirits wandered, seeking solace or revenge. The history of Eastern State Penitentiary began in 1829, when it was founded with the idea of reforming prisoners through a radical system of solitary confinement. The prison's design was a marvel of its time, featuring a series of radial cell blocks that radiated out from a central hub, each cell a tiny, isolated room where prisoners would live alone, with no human contact. This was the vision of its architect, John Haviland, who believed that isolation and contemplation would lead to moral reflection and eventual redemption. However, the reality of life inside Eastern State was far from redemptive. The prisoners, often subjected to extreme solitude for years, sometimes even decades, began to break mentally and physically under the strain. Many inmates reported hearing strange noises in their cells, whispers in the dead of night, or the sound of footsteps echoing in the silence. Some described a sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes were following them as they moved through the dark halls. The isolation became so severe that some prisoners went mad, begging for release or for the voices in their heads to stop. For many, the horrors they endured were more than just physical. They were psychological and spiritual. The souls of these tortured men, trapped in their cells and tormented by their own minds, were not allowed to rest. And thus, the stage was set for the ghostly presence that would haunt Eastern State Penitentiary for years to come. The most chilling stories from the penitentiary come from the experiences of those who have visited the site in more recent years, long after its doors were closed. These modern-day accounts tell of an eerie, oppressive atmosphere that hangs over the prison. Visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures darting through the corridors, heard footsteps that don't belong to any living person, and felt a cold breath on the back of their necks, even when there was no one around. Some claim to have seen full-bodied apparitions, faint, translucent shapes of men in prison uniforms, wandering aimlessly through the empty halls. One of the most frequently cited ghostly encounters is the figure of a man seen in the cell block known as Cell 12. This particular cell is notorious for its eerie energy, and many paranormal investigators have documented strange occurrences in and around it. Visitors have described seeing a man standing motionless in the doorway of the cell, staring out with hollow, lifeless eyes. When they approach, the figure vanishes without a trace, leaving behind only the unsettling feeling of being watched. It's as if the spirit is trapped in time, forever reliving the hopelessness of his confinement. The sounds of strange whispers and cries also haunt the prison. Many who have ventured into the darkened hallways late at night have reported hearing distant voices, as if the prison's walls are alive with the suffering of the past. Some claim to have heard the anguished cries of inmates pleading for mercy, while others describe hearing soft conversations or laughter coming from empty cells. The sounds are not easily explained, and often, they seem to come from nowhere, echoing through the otherwise silent halls. There are also those who claim to have experienced something more sinister, an overwhelming sense of dread that seems to emanate from the very walls of the penitentiary. A feeling of being pursued, trapped, and watched by unseen forces has led many visitors to flee the site in terror, unable to explain the intense fear that grips them. In some instances, those who have ventured into certain areas of the prison have felt an icy chill seep into their bones, a coldness that is not explained by the weather or the condition of the building. It's a coldness that seems to come from within, as if the spirits of the tormented prisoners are reaching out from beyond the grave, trying to make contact with the living. One particularly chilling tale comes from a group of paranormal investigators who visited Eastern State Penitentiary in search of evidence of the supernatural. Armed with cameras, audio recorders, and other ghost hunting equipment, they made their way into the depths of the prison, determined to capture proof of the spirits said to haunt the place. As they moved through the darkened corridors, they began to hear strange noises, footsteps, whispers, and the sound of rattling chains. At first, they assumed it was simply the creaking of the old building, but as they moved deeper into the prison, the sounds grew louder and more distinct. Suddenly, one of the investigators reported feeling a cold hand on their shoulder. Turning around, they found no one there. The air around them seemed to grow heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The group continued on, but the feeling of being watched grew unbearable. As they reached the infamous death row section of the prison, they were greeted by an overwhelming sense of despair. The temperature dropped dramatically, and one of the investigators fainted from the oppressive atmosphere. The team quickly left the area, but their footage later revealed something strange. In the background, just beyond the reach of their flashlights, a shadowy figure could be seen moving in the dark. It was as though something or someone had been following them, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The paranormal activity at Eastern State Penitentiary is not limited to shadowy figures and strange sounds. There are reports of objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut without cause, and the distinct feeling of being touched or grabbed by invisible hands. Some visitors have even claimed to experience intense feelings of nausea or dizziness, as though the very air is thick with a malevolent force. It's as if the spirits of the past are not content to rest in peace, but instead, they are trapped in the prison's walls, unable to escape the horrors they endured during their lifetimes. Many of the prison's ghosts are thought to be the spirits of the inmates who once inhabited the place, men who were subjected to unimaginable cruelty, forced into solitary confinement for years on end. Some of these spirits may still be wandering the hallways, searching for a way out, or perhaps seeking vengeance on those who abandoned them to suffer alone. Others may be the souls of guards or prison staff who perished during the prison's long history, their spirits now forever linked to the institution. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the hauntings at Eastern State Penitentiary is the sense that the prison is not just haunted by individual spirits, but by a collective presence. The atmosphere of the prison feels charged with the energy of countless lost souls, all trapped in the same place, their suffering intertwined. Visitors to the penitentiary often report a sense of overwhelming sadness, as if they are being weighed down by the accumulated pain and misery of all those who have passed through its doors. Eastern State Penitentiary is more than just a crumbling relic of the past. It's a place where the line between the living and the dead is thin, where the spirits of those who suffered in its cells still linger, waiting for someone to listen to their stories. For those who dare to visit, the prison offers not just a glimpse into history, but a brush with the supernatural. And for some, the experience is more than they bargained for, a reminder that some places are cursed, forever haunted by the echoes of the past. As the shadows stretch long across the prison's decaying walls, and the wind howls through the broken windows, the ghosts of Eastern State Penitentiary continue to roam its halls, restless, angry, and unyielding. They are the lost souls of the forgotten, trapped in a prison of their own making. And for those who enter, they serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes the past is never truly gone. It lingers waiting, just beyond the corner, in the dark. If you ever find yourself standing at the gates of Eastern State Penitentiary, you may want to listen closely. The voices of the past are still speaking, if you're brave enough to hear them.